You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today on our Friday review, I want to bring you a great show, one that we were just able to actually put together from different products that we use currently in the Wellness Center, especially during this kind of winter, spring time of the year as well. Bring you it's a great KickStarter campaign that someone in my office shared with me, so I'll bring you that. And then I'll tell you about a little bit of my Hawaii trip that I was just on and what I learned specifically on that. So the first thing I want to do, and again, this will be a fairly quick show, and the reason is, well, quick in terms of my relative terms, is that I do have actually a bunch of online Skype calls. These are actually, one's in the Middle East, and one is, I'm trying to think right now, one is actually in South America. So really nice that I get to talk with people all across the world, see what they have going on, and see how I can help them too. But those are in just a bit, so I want to be able to prep for those. So let's get right into today's show. So what I want to talk about first is how to help people, because I've actually been getting quite a few questions on the Cabral House calls as well, with ear, nose, and throat issues. So some people are dealing with chronic sinus-based issues, post-nasal drip, blockages in their ears, pain in their sinuses, a little bit of vertigo, loss in equilibrium, kind of brain fog, stuffiness, all sorts of different things that they don't seem to be able to kick, not just seasonal-based allergies, but these are things that they have ongoing. So what I want to do is I want to share with you exactly what I do in my practice, and then I want you to be able to make your best decision, your best choice based on that, of course. So right now, one of my favorite things to do, so this happens a lot with people with candida overgrowth. Do keep in mind, just because you did an organic acids test or some other lab, or you just believe because of your symptoms that you have candida or yeast overgrowth. Candida or yeast overgrowth can grow in your sinuses. It can grow in your stomach. It can grow in your esophagus. When I was sick and they did endoscopies, they did every test known to man. They found yeast in my esophagus, literally in my throat, down my stomach, all just a massive systemic case of that. And if they had tested, I'm sure they would have found it in my sinuses as well. Here's the thing. When you take antibiotics, even if it's just once, your recurrence for another sinus infection is 100%. 100%. That is what the studies show. It's horrible. I do not use any antibiotics in my practice. Again, I can't prescribe them. I never would I prescribe them. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a naturopathic doctor. Okay, there's a big difference. I believe in acute-based medicine. You've heard me answer this before. I believe in antibiotics in life-saving conditions. Besides that, unless your life is in danger, I do not recommend them. And a sinus infection, you can cure that naturally. This is the big thing. We use our adult immune protocol for adults, and we use our children's immune protocol for children. And again, people ask me, just go to stephencabral.com/store. You can see our recommendations. You never need to buy them from us. That's not what it's about. When I mention that, it's about giving you the information. We make it easy, and when you purchase from us, obviously you're supporting the Cabral concept, but you're also getting my particular recommendations, not used on the bottle, but how I use it as well. So now the ear, nose, and throat. Here's the thing. In addition to immunity-based protocols to wipe out candida in the sinuses, but also get rid of sinus infections, but also get rid of all these different types of things. Again, we can't call them cures. So all we're talking about is rebalancing the body. And again, your nasal passages, believe it or not, actually have their own flora. We talk about the microbiome, but what about the flora inside of your nasal passages? That matters well. What about the mucosa there? What about the secretory IgA? All of those things matter too. So the first thing we use is something called nasal spray by Nutribiotic. It's a grapefruit seed extract. All of these products today, there's going to be a recurring theme: grapefruit seed extract. Why? It works on candida. It works on bacteria. That means it's antifungal, antibacterial, antimicrobial as well. You will not find that in every single herb or every single plant-based thing out there. This is a unique one. Grapefruit seed extract does so much for your body, a lot like oregano oil. But if you've ever tried to put oregano oil in your nose, which I have by accident, the burning is unbelievable. So you would probably not want to do that. Again, we all learn by trial and error. That was a big error. But what I'm bringing you right now is the nasal spray by Nutribiotic. 2 to 3 sprays in each nostril, 2 to 3 times a day when you have nasal congestion. Works amazingly well when you're also using internal good supplements to boost your immunity, okay? So, and of course, eating well, trying to reduce that gluten and dairy while you have all this mucus. And I would just say, and going forward. And then this other thing called throat spray. So it's interesting. We all get this certain way in which we get sick. I know when I'm getting run down sick. The back of my throat gets this little fuzzy feeling, this little dry feeling. The back of my nasal passages feel the same thing. I immediately spray about 5 to 8 sprays of this throat spray right in the back of my throat. I let it hit where my tonsils would be if they weren't extracted when I was 6 or 7 or 8 years old. And I let it sit there and then I just swallow it down. Again, it's grapefruit seed extract, but just as important, it's zinc and it's also menthol. Unbelievable for supporting your immune system, opening up those nasal passages. And then ear drops. Now, this is more used with children, I would say, than adults. Adults don't get earaches as much, however, they still do. But if you feel like you have blockages in your ears, 2 to 3 drops, maybe a little bit more, but definitely 2 drops to 3 drops for children is all you'll need. And you can warm up the drops. You can just let them go in there and kind of move them around a little bit. So great for killing Candida, again, in the ears. Yes, it can absolutely go into the air passages, and also great for killing bacteria there. I've used it with both of my daughters. It works fantastic. We don't use antibiotics for earaches. We don't use tubes in our family. Believe me, I've gone through all that myself as a child. I do not want my children to repeat those same mistakes that I had to go through. I want them to be as healthy as humanly possible. Am I always leaving the door open to antibiotics for children and my children as well? Absolutely. I just hope that one day, that day never comes, and I hope that I never have to use them. But what I'm doing is I know what to use in terms of natural medicine. Now, the last part, this nasal rinse cup, aka neti pot. When I found out about this let's say it's about 12 years ago, it helped tremendously with my seasonal allergies, with my nasal congestion, which is washing out everything that was accumulating in my nose, especially during the spring season with all that pollen. Fantastic. All you have to do is you bring it right in the shower. You can use distilled water. You can use the shower filter or the shower if you use a filter like I do. And again, check out previous shower and bath filters. Just type that right into the search on the Cabral podcast. And if you don't know how to do that, just go to stephencabral.com/podcast. Hit Command F on a Mac, and that allows you to search that page. Then just type in filter, and it will show you the shower filter and the bath filter and the water filters. And that's what we do. So then, besides that, I just add a little bit of sea salt, Himalayan sea salt or real salt right to that. And again, I could just wash out my nasal passages. And it's so easy to do. Really, it takes 30 seconds in the shower. These things are so quick and they work tremendously. So we use the nasal spray multiple times per day, throat spray multiple times per day, ear drops multiple times per day as needed. But again, you keep these things in your house and they might last you the year, but you have to have them on hand. That's the big thing. I say don't use antibiotics, but you can't do nothing. You can't just hope for the best. You have to use either natural medicine or conventional medicine. You can't just do nothing. Nothing typically doesn't work and it makes your kids or yourself sicker. So do something. Keep what I have as a little online pharmacy online in-home pharmacy right in my home. I have all my natural products there. When I need it, my wife says, oh, my daughter's sick or whoever it might be, we just go right to work. My wife knows all of these things. She knows my entire practice basically. She literally could be a really great health practitioner teaching others if she ever wanted to. That's obviously her prerogative. But she's just seen it. She's seen it work and she knows all these things. She knows exactly what to do. And I'd say she's ahead of me in a lot of what to do for skincare and all of those great things as well. We'll share more of that in the future. So anyway, that's the first one today. And of course, my hopes for like a super short show just went out the window, but I'm really passionate about natural health. And the thing is, when you see it work over and over and over, it's contagious. You want to share it with other people. That's what I want you to do. I want you to find out for yourself, but then I also want you to share it with other people. Let them know that there are alternatives. There really are. Like, you can get well without the drugs because the drugs have repercussions. And I don't want the long-term repercussions for you and your family. All right, let's make up a little time now. I'm going to go over this Kickstarter campaign, and then I'm going to share with you my last Hawaiian trip and what I learned from that. So Aaron, who works at the front desk at our office and really helps with all of our customer service, really great. If you've been to our Boston practice, you obviously met Aaron before. But this is called Nutra Milk. I'll link it up in the show notes. It makes nut milk and butter in minutes. Now, I don't even know who created this. I'm not the creator of it. I don't get paid for this. I'm not anything in relation to that. But nut milk really is fantastic for getting people off cow's milk. Cow's milk is not serving you. It's not serving your children. Please listen to previous Cabral concepts. You will learn about that. Nut milk contains more calcium. So if you're worried about calcium, that just cuts it out right there. Almond milk, 30% more than milk. Almond milk, 30% more calcium than cow's milk. Coconut milk, 50% more calcium than cow's milk. So don't let that be your excuse. Vitamin D in milk, forget about it. It's vitamin D2. Don't get your vitamin D from milk. You don't need it that way. How do you make nut milk? Very simply. Very, very simply. You put ideally sprouted nuts, but you can use any type of nuts you want. And again, ideally raw, organic. Put them in a blender, put some water in there, blend. You can add sea salt. You can do whatever you want. And then strain it through cheesecloth. Nobody has cheesecloth. I mean, if you don't have it, you can't make it. This right here cuts all of that out. Basically, what it does is it food processes it. It's a food processor, but then it has this special filter, and what pours out is just your nut milk. So none of the easy or none of the big mess, anything like that. I feel like I'm doing an infomercial for them. But you can use almonds, cashews, walnuts, hazelnuts, peanuts, pecans, pistachios. I think Brazil milk. Brazil nut milk is one of those ones I think you'll be hearing about in the future. So high in selenium. Really, really great for the thyroid, great for detoxification. Another one that I started drinking when I was in Hawaii, I don't drink a lot of it, but I put in my smoothie, is macadamia nut milk. Really nice as well. So I'm not going to go on and on. If you're looking for an easy way to make nut milk or make your own natural nut butters without all the sugars and all the additives, and you can make your all organic ones, and it's again, this takes you just minutes to do, really, really fast. You can make it gluten-free, dairy-free, all those different just really nice things. I will link this up in the show notes. But if you want, just go to KickStarter, which is basically Kickstarter. Sorry, for those who don't know, it's a campaign that small businesses use to try to raise money to fund their prototype. So this campaign ends April 13th, so it's coming up, and they've raised almost $24,000 out of their $35,000 goal. By the time you listen to this podcast, you will actually, maybe they'll already have reached their goal. But you can donate a certain amount of money, and for a certain pledge, you'll get your own Nutri-Milk, which is how you make the milk or how you make the almond butter, and they will obviously deliver that right to you. It doesn't look like it's inexpensive. It looks like it's about $200 or so, which again, not cheap, but it's worth it. We'll put it this way. If you're someone who typically buys nut butter or buys nut milk, or who doesn't want all the preservatives and all the synthetic stuff in your milk or nut butters. So hopefully that helps. Okay. And plus I love bringing you these fun things. I love seeing them myself. So if you ever see something you think that I should make it known to people, feel free to write in and let me know. Just go to stevecabral.com/ask Cabral. All right. My last one today. So my daughter's school vacation, we went to Hawaii. Hawaii is one of my favorite places, if not my favorite place in the world to visit. Yes, because it is a long, long flight. It's 12 plus hours in the air. That doesn't include layovers from Boston to Hawaii. But I think that's part of why I like it. It's this journey. Like, I'm so far removed from my day-to-day that it's almost like it's a sabbatical, and I get to spend 24 hours with family and just really enjoy the experience. I love being outdoors. I love just nice tempered weather, 70s, cool breeze. It's just beautiful. Really, really enjoy it. But of course, you can't take my passion, my love for naturopathy, and especially old school naturopathy, Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, natural hygienists, all of those things away. And along my travels, I actually found a book that I had never heard about before. It's called Hawaiian Herbal Medicine. Now, I've studied Greek medicine. I've studied, Taoist medicine, all these great types of medicine. Of course, the big ones that I was talking about as well. But I found this book, and I actually found that it was available on Amazon, so I can link it up for you. This book, again, you have to really be into natural health to appreciate it and to read it over. It's about 170 pages, which, I enjoyed reading during my downtime. But what it does is just in the back of the book, after it gives you all of these traditional based remedies, talking about the plants and the herbs, which I love reading about. Again, a lot of these are native to the Hawaiian Islands, and not even each island. They're kind of individual ones, and how the plants are used and how they were used, let's say, few hundred years ago, and they may not be used now. But now it gives us some just nice modern ones. Like for asthma, for example, it talks about using eucalyptus and boiling that, making a tea, breathing it in. It talks about for those boils, using the castor oil bean. It talks about burns, using aloe and aloe vera. And of course, most of us know that works. For cancer, one of the things in its early stages, it talks about eating papaya seeds. Now, a lot of people say, well, why would that ever work? Remember, papaya seeds contain papain. What does papain do? It's a protease. What do proteases do? They're an enzyme that dissolves proteins. What are cancers made out of? Proteins as well. It can help. There's systemic-based enzymes. Remember, the research done by Donald William Kelly, furthered by Nicholas Gonzalez, uses proteases, uses large amounts of these proteolytic enzymes. I don't talk a lot about cancer-based therapies. I will in the future, but remember, there are natural-based cures as well. And whether you want to use that, conventional medicine, or a combination of both, remember, there is always an answer. You just have to look. Okay, before I go on a tangent, let's move down. Qatar. So Qatar, I loved seeing this word. When I was over in India, or actually, India, Sri Lanka first, I was just, what's Qatar? I had no idea when the doctors were teaching, when I was doing the clinicals, what that was, and it's basically it's allergies. It's allergies. That's hay fever. And so what they're looking at is they're using specific leaves called a paua. And this specifically, and again, my Hawaiian's terrible, so please don't correct it on that. Talking about how we can relieve allergies and specific things, again, with using certain things from nature. And there are obviously naturopathic-based remedies as well for this Ayurvedic. Coughs and colds. Talking about ginger mixed with a little bit of honey, eucalyptus to bring up that phlegm. And it absolutely does work, especially if we add a little bit of the menthol in there too. Cold sores. Talks about applying vinegar, apple cider vinegar. Diabetes, talking about believe it or not, the specific minerals in straight sugar cane. Not sugar, keep in mind, sugar cane is actually bitter, very, very different. How tomatoes help as well. So, really nice things to look at. Diarrhea, talking about the leaf buds of guava. Digestive problems, going back to papaya, and how those enzymes in papaya and pineapple are so good for digestive-based problems. Talking about tamarind for fevers. Talking about parsley tea, watercress soup for gout. I could go on and on. I mean, this is just all great stuff. And again, there's a little something for all sorts of each different disease. The whole reason I brought that up is, one, I love to read. I love reading all these other different insights that I can bring into my practice specifically, and that I can look more into. Because then that me reading this book, then I got about a half a dozen different questions from it, and I wrote those questions down. That will then lead me to reading more books and doing more research. Now, for you, what I want you to see is, I want you to see whether you read this book, whether you ever read any of these books, doesn't matter. What I want you to see is that there's possibility, that you do understand that natural medicine holds the key to not only reversing any disease, any weight gain issues that you may have right now, but also treating any issues that you may have in the future, so that you can live a long, great quality of life. And that's what it's all about. And it's about it for you. It's about it for your family, your whole family, everyone, and then hopefully your children and their children one day. Because remember, what happened to me as a child, I don't want that to ever happen to any of my children. And if I teach them correctly, they're going to teach their children as well, and hopefully their children. It's a compounding effect. I can't change the past, and that's okay. I'm okay with that because I'm okay today. I got well. I want to help you get well. I want to help you rebalance your body. Once you do, believe me, please do this. Pay it forward. That's what you have to do. That's the only repayment that any functional medicine doctor, anyone that you work with, really wants. Absolutely, they want you to share that message. People love referrals, all those different things. But really, when it comes down to it, is this. Most natural health practitioners went through their own struggle. Because of that, they don't want anyone else to have to go through that struggle. And that's the same as me. You just have to understand that there is a natural based answer to whatever you're struggling with right now, you can overcome it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another Cabral Concept. I do really appreciate each and every one of your listens. Take care, everyone. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.